Everybody, and welcome to another edition of Magic Mics. We get started as we do each and every week by introducing my two co-hosts, Reuben Bressler.
Hi.
Aaron Campbell.
Hey.
And we are live on location right here. See, I can do that. Hey.
This is I don't
same.
Stay out of my
same
square.
room.
Stay
Look
out of my
at
square.
look at the weird look at my small hand. Look at the small hand.
Dude, stay out of my square.
That's a weird small hand.
Get your Donald Trump hands out of my square.
Dude.
They pay for legacy tonight because you guys decided to do this, so you're welcome.
We ruined it.
Thanks for being the third wheel on our date.
We were Yeah.
I ship it. I'm not.
Me and you. And you and me.
Would you be a
Bristler?
Bristlier?
Bristlier.
Are we online?
Yeah,
All right.
we're doing this.
Oh, there it is.
All right, so thank you guys for joining us. We are here on location, talking about things and stuff. We made this happen. We did take away Aaron's legacy night.
Right. And we also found out that my computer is a potato.
Yeah,
It doesn't broadcast very well, as noted by how glitchy and pixelated we all are, and how the first pick will be the topic for the entire week.
That thing on the bottom down there, that's not changing because we had plenty of issues getting this thing running. But we're running. We're live when we said we were going to be.
Hey, man.
That's important.
It is 8 o'clock Pacific time,
Mm-hmm.
and we are live.
Yes.
Not because
Right.
we're ready,
Right.
but because it's 8 o'clock.
Because it's 8 o'clock. And you're going to have to get me a multi-gig file when this is done.
What does that mean?
Like, it's a huge file. You're recording locally all of this video.
Okay.
And you have to upload that somewhere to give it to me.
You can do that.
You have a flash drive?
Maybe.
All right. Whatever. The first pick. Yeah, see, it's a little weird because now we're in the same room and it's strange. We're going to start with SOI spoiler. Shadows of Innistrad is totally sweet.
Yeah.
And I'm going to bring some up on the screen now. Obviously, not working perfectly. Let me see if I can just, okay, great. Perfect. All right. Pulling up some new spoilers. There's been, this was the official first spoiler week, so, everything has gone cray-cray. The sweet spoilers are coming. The Planeswalkers are getting busted. Gathering Magic got to bust Nahiri.
Yeah.
Which was awesome. Thank you, Wizards of the Coast.
Yeah, that was... Nahiri is nice, by the way. It's a really good card. In a red-white, it lets you rummage, which is a huge deal, and also immediately goes up to 6 loyalty.
Right.
And I think that the ultimate, much like Karn Liberated spoiled the story, I think that Nahiri hints at a story of what's coming later. That she's the Harbinger,
right.
So she brings something with her.
Right.
And the ultimate indicates that the thing she brings with her is alive and sentient.
Yes.
Right?
And it's going to wreck the plane.
Yes.
Wreck it, like Ralph. And Harbinger or Harbinger?
I think they're both correct pronunciations.
What's that?
I believe it's Harbinger.
Okay. So get it right.
Harbinger.
Harbinger. Anyway, so yeah, a red-white planeswalker, the first one since Ajani. Ajani was great. I think Nahiri is fantastic. She has all the right numbers. She's able to protect herself. She works with Madness and Delirium. Her -8 is easily doable in 2 turns, technically 3, but you know what I mean? And that's just fantastic to go get an Ugin or whatever and just go smash your way into it. Aaron, how do you feel about Nahiri?
I'm more interested in her from a Vorthos standpoint. I really just want to know why she's so mad.
Yeah.
The same thing with Avacyn. I leave the... Whether or not a card is good. I don't really play those colors, so I'm probably a really poor judge of character, but I love that Nahiri is here. She's a character that people have wanted to know more about for a while, especially when everything was happening on Zendikar. When, all of the information came out about Zendikar, Ulamog is back, Kozilek's back, people were going, well, how can Nahiri just not be a part of this? This is her plane. How is she, just kind of either witnessing this or just not involved in this? And so people have been wondering where she is for a whole block now, and here she is. And I'm curious if what she's up to ties into Avacyn at all. You know how a lot of times I'm reminded of the Batman movies, where it's there'd be the 2 villains and they would somehow be in league together, and I'm wondering if this is the case where they're somehow tied together or if they're separate antagonists. I just really want to know that.
I can't.
Sure.
Yeah, she's pissed, and so basically all we're asking is, you mad, bro? You mad? Something wrong? Is something wrong?
Yeah,
People are really reading into this if it's Emrakul. People are so hung up on Emrakul being a part of this that, when she first came out, people kind of skipped most of it and were like, they looked at the ultimate and they were like, Emrakul! She's bringing back Emrakul, that's all it is.
Yeah, she's bringing Emrakul. Yeah.
Like, what?
I don't know exactly why, but sure.
I don't get it, but people are really hung up on Emrakul being a thing in Innistrad, and I'm not sure if that's going to happen.
Now, Neglected Heirloom is on screen. I think that card is really interesting. I mean, just like almost every... they've really kind of branched out on what double-face cards can do and should do and can do and all this other stuff, and we'll get to some of those really sweet ones here momentarily, but I want to bring want to kind of scroll up here to Falconwrath Gorger, which I am just totally in love with. There was a point where a 1-red 2/1 that had to attack every turn got a, oh my god, I can't believe this. And now you get a 1-red 2/1 with a totally awesome ability for free.
Yeah.
Yeah. So Tatamage Maniac came out and Flores made his preview article and it was like, oh my god, can't believe they're doing this. And now we just get the totally sweetest, one of the sweetest 1-drops ever.
Well, it seems like they're really pushing black-red vampires. If you see this card, you see some of the vampires that Gabby spoiled on her Twitch stream tonight. Shout out to Gabby. You're seeing the new Olivia. We're going to kind of jumping ahead here, but it does seem like black-red vampires is going to be a thing.
Right.
Yeah, and the fact that, I think that this indicates that they're trying to make vampires they're trying to make madness a thing in vampires, not just making vampires playable,
Right.
but they're trying to actually make that an archetype with a card that's this powerful.
Right.
And so we haven't seen all of the enablers yet, but I imagine there will be some more vampires that say discard a card, do something.
Right.
We've already seen the Aquamoeba, the colorless and red 1/3, that when you discard a card, it becomes a 3/1 until end of turn. That one's really powerful, and I remember playing Madness back in the day, Blue-Green Madness, and so that card is extremely potent, so I wouldn't be surprised to see those two cards working together. Falconwrath Gorger, it's definitely, obviously it's high on my list, because it's a red 2/1 for 1 mana, so I'm on board.
Which of course means that I'm completely ignoring it.
Yeah, of course.
Well, obviously, but we have to cover what I consider one of the biggest flavor home runs of all time, which is Startled Awake.
Yeah, man.
And Persistent Nightmare.
Oh, Creepy Ghost?
Oh my god. Alright, so for those who are listening on the podcast, it's 2 blue and 2 generic mana. Mythic sorcery. Target opponent puts the top 13 cards of his or her library into their graveyard. 2 blue and 3 generic mana, put Startled Awake from your graveyard onto the battlefield transformed. You can only do that when you cast a sorcery, or when you could cast a sorcery. And here's the killer. The Persistent Nightmare, first of all, is a nightmare creature type.
Yeah.
Boom! Unbelievable. 1/1 that has Skulk, which means this creature can't be blocked by creatures with greater power. And when it deals combat damage to a player, you return it to its owner's hand, which means you're going to return it transformed as Startled Awake. The flavor, it's oozing. It's dripping, it's oozing, it's gushing. It's all the adjectives there's a lot of it. Because, first of all, this thing is one of the most powerful mythic rares in Limited of all time.
Oh, yeah.
Of all time, this card is ridiculous. But secondly, you can't get better flavor than that. I mean, I literally can't imagine a better way to sort of communicate that, oh my god, you're awake and you're losing your mind, which means you're losing part of your library. And then the nightmare comes up, which is literally the creature type of nightmare.
Yeah.
And it's totally sweet.
I love it. Skulk is a sweet keyword that they've just added to this set. It's the old homunculus, what all the old homunculi, sneaky homunculus.
Homunculi, if you will.
Homunculi, yeah. Sneaky homunculus from, I think, Nemesis used to have basically this keyword, and then they printed a couple other homunculuses that had that, and then they've turned it into a keyword. And hopefully this is one that's prowess that they'll keep using, because I really like the keyword.
It's fantastic. And also that child, it reminds me of the movie Village of the Damned, the little kids with the white hair and the glowing eyes. That's what my first thought was. But you're right, this is definitely probably the most flavorful card, but I think something that might be underneath it, just underneath it, is Sinister Concoction. I really like this card because it really emphasizes the recipe aspect of a little bit of this, a little bit of that. Bam, you just killed something. That's really dope.
Right there.
Ah, yes. That one, It's so weird. It's like it's a 1 black enchantment. It's a 1 black uncommon enchantment for 1 black. Pay a life. Put the top card of your library into your graveyard. Discard a card. Sacrifice Sinister Concoction. Destroy target creature.
Yeah.
There was some conversation among zombie loam players that this might be good for zombie loam because you can play this on turn 1 and it's a discard outlet for us. It's a way to we don't mind paying 1 life, we don't mind milling ourselves for 1, and we certainly don't mind discarding a card. And we can destroy something like Scavenging Ooze or something really, really pesky that we otherwise can't deal with. And I'm not saying it will make the cut, but it was nice to see the discussion surrounding it because people were saying who's going to want to do all those things, and we were like, we are.
We do, though.
Yeah.
I mean, I don't know. It's just one of those cards that's much like the Audric we'll talk about here in a little bit. That it's just ripe to make fun of. It just kills me. It's 1 black, pay a life, put the top card, discard a card, sacrifice Sinister Concoction, call your mama because she misses you. Pay $20 to your nearest charity.
Yep.
Turn around. Do the hokey pokey, and then maybe do something.
So can we talk about a kind of a lighthearted card real quick before we move on to something else? Can we talk about Macabre Waltz?
The card Macabre Waltz? Yeah.
Yeah, absolutely.
They do it literally on a ballroom dancing with a zombie. She's taking the male role, and she's like dipping in the zombie, and the zombie is like taking on the damsel role, or it's just dead and it's not even participating. And Mike Linneman did an article on this for Gathering Magic where he interviewed the artist behind it, or one of the artists behind it, I think, and just kind of talked about an artist. I'm sorry, not the artist. Just like the little details where like the angels in the background are playing music. And they're just the card is just so funny to look at.
Yeah. The original art to Macabre Waltz, I don't know is it the same art as the original printing?
No.
Because the original Macabre Waltz art was gruesome.
No, this is fun. This is pure Liliana just hamming it up, dancing with a corpse.
Nice.
If you get a chance to look at it, it's so great.
I love the fact that we see Liliana's armpit. I know that's weird.
And it's shaved.
But it's cool. I don't know. I get a kick out of it. It looks great. It's a sweet painting. You did a great job. I'm trying to look for it, but it unfortunately is not on Mythic Spoiler, which makes me sad.
So we haven't discussed Arlinn as a planeswalker yet, have we?
No.
I want to discuss Arlinn.
Here we
go. Because this is the card for the set, right? So we can discuss, and we can talk about Audric also if we want to. But
Arlinn Cord is a green-red 2 generic mana planeswalker with 3 starting loyalty, and until end of turn, up to 1 target is he has a plus. She starts with 3 starting loyalty +1. Until end of turn, up to 1 target creature gets +2/+2 and gains vigilance and haste. For 0 colon, you can put a 2/2 wolf creature onto the battlefield and transform Arlinn Cord. Her flip side is Arlinn Embraced by the Moon, and she'll have the same loyalty that she had when she flipped. And for +1, creatures you control get +1/+1 and gain trample until end of turn. -1, Arlinn Embraced by the Moon deals 3 damage to target creature or player, then you transform her. Or -6, you get an emblem with creatures you control have haste and tap. This creature deals damage equal to its power to target creature or player. So basically, it's one of the best constructed cards of the set, not close.
Yeah.
Well, it's also important to note, and Aaron Forsyth noted this on Twitter, that she does not function like the Origins Planeswalkers, so you can't do her 0 ability, flip her, bolt something, and then flip her back.
Right.
If you use one of the abilities, that's her ability for the turn, and you can't do it again.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I think that, the other cool thing about her is that she can control her own destiny, right? And that's her big flavor selling point in the set anyway, is that Arlinn can control her lycanthropy. And the fact that she can flip back and forth sort of sells that. And every single thing that this card does is super powerful.
Yeah.
Obviously, the ultimate is not a thing we really care about, but being able to bolt things on the Embraced by the Moon side is extremely powerful. Mm-hmm. Being able to pump your team is insane with 2 of the abilities, and by the way, it also creates a wolf token. Which usually what you're going to be doing is dropping it, making a wolf token making a 2/2 like you would with any other 4-mana planeswalker, but immediately flipping it to a side that can bolt something the next turn, which is great. I mean, it's Huntmaster of the Fells as a planeswalker that can control itself and also has the possibility of ultimating later.
Right.
I know a lot of people that are excited about this just simply from the flavor and the demographic of the character. We're seeing a clearly middle-aged woman who is healthy, active, and killing things. For a long time, we've seen people on the extremes where it's like you either have sultry young things in battle or you have old mother of the runes. There's never really been a happy medium where we've seen women of a certain age doing great things. And so I know a lot of female Magic players who are really stoked about this card, and also not a mother. It'd be very easy for her to fill a mother role or a wife role, and she's none of those things. She's just Arlinn Cord, and I know a lot of people who are really excited about that, and I'm really proud of Wizards for taking that step in terms of character development.
Yeah, I mean, this to me is like, it's almost literally Huntmaster of the Planeswalker. Like, it's just, it comes in, it can make a 2/2, all right, great, now it has loyalty, and next turn it's going to bolt you, and it's going to flip back, and it's going to be able to do a cool thing later. Very powerful, super good, great on the curve, just one of the best Planeswalkers in Standard. And they meant it to be that way.
Yeah.
They wanted it to be one of the best cards. And I would talk about Audric Lunark of the million keywords, but I don't really care.
Soul Flayer.
It's really ridiculous.
Yeah, it's Karen Wanderer, your whole team. There's not much else to say about it. I'm not sure that a Hill Giant that does this. If a card like it's Battle Butcher or something like that, where whenever a creature you control attacks, you gain a life and your opponent loses a life. Sure. If that doesn't see play, then Audric's not going to see play. No. I don't foresee Audric making a big impact on Standard.
But to the slaughter, will.
Yes.
This card is so good. It's a black and 2 generic mana, rare instant. Target player sacrifices a creature or a planeswalker. Delirium, however, if you have 4 or more card types among cards in your graveyard, instead that player sacrifices a creature and a planeswalker. Super good. Even the flavor is good. The flavor is this huge beast thing coming to grab the lamb, and then the flavor text is, where's little Gossamer gone? Asks the shepherd.
To the slaughter.
Yeah. Oh, it went to the slaughter. Oh. And yeah, this card is incredibly powerful. I expected to see lots and lots of Standard play. Super good. I love everything about it.
I think that I'm a little bit less... I think it's really good. I think it's going to be really difficult to take advantage of early, because if you have an aggro deck, like obviously this is really good if you're getting rid of just a Thought-Knot Seer or just an Arlinn Cord, but Arlinn Cord usually comes with a 2/2, and by turn 4, unless you've cast something like Gather the Pack, you're not going to have Delirium yet. So to get the full effect early, turn 3, turn 4, it's going to be a little bit difficult. But yeah, I think that the effect that if most situations that you have where you've only got the one threat that you need to answer, you only need to get rid of an Ashiok, you only need to get rid of a Troll Ascetic, or whatever you're playing against. This is a really good answer to all those effects. And it's instant speed, which is huge.
Super, super good. Aaron?
So while we're on the subject of removal, can we talk about Anguish Unmaking?
Yes. The new Vindicate, which is insane.
Yes.
The card is super good. I'm going to go find it right now and put it on screen.
The art for this is the Game Day playmat, and the art, you can see Tamiyo and Jace in the corner of the art, which you can't see on the card.
Right.
So this is a moment where Tamiyo and Jace are walking in on this happening, and people are interested to see if they're going to stop it or if they're too late. Because they don't look like they're happy with what's going on. There's definitely looks of and it's a really pivotal moment.
Yeah.
The flavor text indicates that Avacyn will be permanently dealt with, and I know some people were kind of disappointed about that. They thought that the flavor text was kind of unnecessary or doing too much.
Right. And would you mind just reading off what the card does, because we cannot find it.
So it's a 1 colorless, a white and a black as an instant. Exile target non-land permanent. You lose 3 life. So it's 1 less than Utter End at the cost of 3 life.
We didn't scroll all the way to the other side of the page.
Yeah, we didn't scroll. And there's Macabre Waltz.
There's Macabre Waltz that we were talking about. Yeah, we were just casually missing.
Where Liliana was sweet, and then we were just totally casually missing things like Wolf of Devil's Breach. Right, so Anguished Unmaking, as you mentioned, exiles target non-land permanent. You lose in 3 life. It's super fantastic. I expect this thing to see tons of play. This to me is very reminiscent of Thoughtseize, where Thoughtseize is just one of the best, discard spells ever made, and this is one of the best instant removal spells ever made for its cost, and as a result, you have to lose some life alongside it.
Yeah, this card is absurd, and obviously it has a huge story element indicating that Soren's going to start at Avacyn and now has to take her away. And I had heard people discussing that this was, they've been putting story elements like this into sets less so, but the few cards that they put the big story elements on, they've been really hammering, like Aligned Hedron Network, for example.
Yeah.
And this one is like a huge, like Phyrexian Arena level of flavor in a piece of art and a piece of flavor text on a card. On a card, by the way, that is definitely going to see a lot of tournament play in multiple formats, I would imagine.
Yeah, Wizards is picking their battles at this point. They're saying, like, we're going to do Fall of the Titans, and it's going to be that big story moment, and you're going to know it's that big story moment, and that's going to be the end of it. And Anguished Unmaking just allows you to say, like, not only is it an amazing tournament-level card, but it also ties in the story, so everybody kind of gets, like, their chocolate with their peanut butter, their
bacon on their cheeseburger.
Come on, guys.
I stole it.
You gotta get that little snapping. You gotta be on top of this thing. So,
I did see some discussion around this card regarding the term fridging. Are you familiar with fridging?
No.
Okay.
I'm
Fridging
afraid.
is a term that originated in the comic book world where where female characters are oftentimes killed for the sake of advancing a male character storyline. And there were some people that were concerned that this is Soren's deal, and that Avacyn, who could have had her own moment and could have been great, is being killed so that Soren can feel things, or so that Soren can have a plot line. And I thought that was a really interesting discussion because, and I'm anxious to see if that goes anywhere. But they also brought up Elspeth too. You have these characters that like you build up, but then it's done so that Heliod can have a deal and Daxos can be a thing. And it's just like it's an interesting thing to talk about whether or not Wizards is really doing enough with these female characters, or if they're willing to sacrifice them to give dudes a plot line.
Right.
Yeah, that's the girlfriend in the fridge or whatever. Yeah. And they did that with Aquaman, I think, was the first one to start that.
Yeah, I'm not sure which
trend.
one it was, but it's an interesting theory. And I heard when this card came out, people were like, well, great, well, now you're doing it to another character. Like, what's going on? And I thought that was interesting.
Sure. So, yeah, I mean, there's just like all the spoilers are so good. It's just ridiculous because we're just right in the thick of it. I mean, for example, so how do you guys feel about the Wolf of Devil's Breach? That's a 2-rated 3 generic mana 5/5, so it's a 5-mana 5/5 that it's a mythic elemental wolf, and whenever Wolf of Devil's Breach attacks, you may pay a red and a generic mana and discard a card. If you do, it deals damage to target creature or planeswalker equal to the discarded card's converted mana cost. So most of the time, these types of effects are not very good because, like, you have to do a thing, you have to jump through another hoop, and you have to have a card with a high converted mana cost, otherwise it doesn't do much. But it is a 5-mana 5/5, and it feels like they've pushed it about as far as they could push it.
Yeah, I mean, it's a madness outlet, which I think is pretty huge.
Right.
And being a 5-mana 5/5 means that it's probably a tournament playable one. Just by the sheer size of it. The fact that they've pushed it this hard means that they at least want to try and get it to be playable and standard. I don't know that I really want to be pouring this much mana into... so if I have a Madness deck, right, and I have a bunch of Madness cards in it, I don't want to be triggering their Madness effects by turn 6, right?
Sure.
Unless it's an 8-mana card that has a 6-cost Madness that's going to come out later. I don't think that there's a real great way to get Wolf of Devil's Breach to really be in a Madness-centric deck. What I do think is more likely is that you play this in... You just play a bunch of 4 and 5 drops, and you play it in like a mid-range Jund style deck, and then you discard excess copies of Arlinn Cord to kill 4/4s. I think that's much more likely.
It's possible. This definitely feels like there was a time in which all you had to do was it attacked and you discarded a card, and they were like, oh, we need to add a mana cost to that. And so it's kind of awkwardly shoehorned in, oh, also pay a red, also pay a generic mana, and discard a card, and then you'll get the sweet effect. Aaron?
The art's pretty, but it's a red card, so...
Wow!
Another Madness Enabler, and that would be Olivia Mobilized for War.
Oh, it's so good! I love it.
Yeah, Olivia is a nice one.
I hate the art, though.
The art is a little silly, but fine, ultimately,
it's like
I think.
Mary Poppins if she was a bloodsucker. It's just like...
That-
it's very whimsical.
that
And
sounds
when I think
awesome.
of Olivia Mobilized for War, I think of like a bad bitch. I think of like an armored, Green of Tarth kind of Olivia. I don't think of this wee kind of thing, and so I hate the art.
I think it's fantastic. She is a mythic. She's a red, black, and a generic 3/3 legendary vampire knight.
Yeah.
Also sweet. She has flying, and whenever another creature enters the battlefield under your control, you may discard a card. If you do, put a +1/+1 counter on that creature. It gains haste until end of turn, and it becomes a vampire in addition to its other types. All I'm saying is anything mobilized for war is badass. Just by definition, badass.
Yeah.
It's also nice that she's just down to one name now. Like, she's not Olivia Boldaren.
Yeah, no, she's just
There's
Olivia.
no other Olivia. She's
Yeah.
the only
Right.
Olivia.
She dropped the Knowles.
Yeah.
It's just Beyonce now.
Right.
Pretty much.
I think that the only way that we can really conclude a spoilers/previews section is to discuss the most famous character in Magic the Gathering, who once again makes an appearance, Jace. Slightly worse Jace, though.
That's slightly worse, Jace.
He's like not that great. Unraveler of Secrets.
No, he's not that
Weird
good.
to see him look like Ashton Kutcher in that picture.
Yeah, this is Jace, leather jacket Jace.
Yeah. You know, he's a loner. He does what he wants.
I'm a loner, Dottie.
He's
I'm a
a
rebel.
2 blue, 3 generic mana, 5 loyalty planeswalker. +1, you scry 1, then draw a card. -2, you return target creature to its owner's hand. -8, you get an emblem with whenever an opponent casts his or her first spell each turn, counter that spell.
Yeah.
So that's the flipped Arrayo, is that right?
Yeah. Well, it's Arcane Laboratory, yeah. I mean, so this Jace is fine. It's about, if you compare it to Ob Nixilis, it's almost exactly the same card.
It's very similar.
The +1 draws a card.
Yeah.
The -2, it's a -2 on Jace, it's a -3 on Ob Nixilis that deals with a creature,
Right.
and then the -8 does something ridiculous. The card's fine. It's no Memory Adept, I don't think. I think Memory Adept was a much more powerful 5-mana Jace.
God, that's
although-
really sad.
Although it does come in with 5 and goes up to 6 immediately.
Right.
It protects itself, and I think that if you're playing, if you don't have a ton of card draw, then Jace is the kind of card you want. I think you want Ob Nixilis, and I think you want Jace as your card advantage engines if you are playing maybe something like a blue-black zombies or a blue-black or like
Control deck.
some sort of control deck that doesn't have a card advantage engine inherent in it.
Well, speaking of control, I believe Shaheen Sarani was asked about this on Twitter because he's a noted Esper guru, and he said something interesting. If I read it correctly, he said that Jace would be good in a non-Esper control deck. And people were kind of curious what he meant by that. Like,
Yeah, I don't know what that means.
But, so it'll be interesting to see if that holds true. Like, if he is better in Grixis, or if he is better in maybe like a Band or something like that, but he didn't seem to be fond of it in Esper for whatever reason.
Yeah, I mean, this like Jace is going to see tournament play because it's a good card, because it's Jace. Like every Jace has seen tournament play, no matter how bad it's been, no matter how upset people have been upset about it.
From M15 did not.
M15,
The Architect.
Oh.
Guild Pact,
Yes,
no
it
one
did.
touched that one.
yes, it did.
Something of the Guild Pact. Yeah, I mean,
Yeah.
it didn't.
It saw
was
play
obviously the
in
least.
mono. It saw play in mono blue aggro sideboards at the Pro Tour. This is the 4-mana one.
Yeah.
The not very good one. I agree with you. Not very good.
Yeah,
Still saw tournament play.
but yeah, I mean, you can't print a bad Jace. Like the Wizards will never do that because it's, as Evan always says, it's Mickey Mouse.
It's
Like you can't ruin the top dog of the album. You know.
It's the Mickey Mouse of Magic, and like I didn't just come up with that term. I got that because Wizards, when they originally rolled out Planeswalkers, the question that they were trying to answer was, well, who is your Mickey Mouse? There was nobody in Magic. There was no legendary creature. There was no thing that was like the face of the brand. They had chosen a few people back during the Weatherlight Saga thing and the Tempest block, and there was Jizam Jin was on there for a while, and Sarah Angel was for a while, Black Lotus was, you know what I mean? But there was no character. And now Planeswalkers are basically superheroes, and we now have our sort of Captain America of Magic, or whatever, however you want to think about it. Like he's the face of Magic, and he is like sort of the generic archetype of a Magic player. Is a guy who's like, you know, he's a loner, and he's misunderstood, and he was bullied.
Dude,
and
I'm
no one
right
gets
here.
him.
I'm right here. You can't just talk about me like that.
See, ladies and gentlemen. So, and I can't just talk about myself like that either. But still, you know,
Well,
that's
you don't have hair.
Right. That's what's the hoods for.
wow.
You can't. I mean, look at Jace. You can't tell if he's got hair under there.
Yeah.
He could have a little he could have a red Jufro, right? Would that ruin your image of Jace if he looked like Ashton Kutcher, but instead had like the like Jerry curl?
Red Pro. I thought you were referring to me and my big hair.
Right. I was saying because you don't identify with Jace, right? You don't see Jace as you like we do.
That was a subliminal hit, dude.
No, it wasn't. I'm saying that like the archetypal Magic player is like a geeky, quiet loner kid.
Right.
Which I don't actually identify with Jace. I was never quiet. I was not. I mean, I guess I was a little bit of a loner, but I came into Magic pretty quick, and then found a clique that I could hang out with.
Well, sure.
I've fancied myself a Liliana, but I'm really a Chandra. Let's be completely honest. Like Chandra is me. So
yeah.
I don't relate to Jace at all, but I do relate to Chandra quite a bit.
All right. So Jace, Unraveler of Secrets, is a fine card. Today they Trick Jarrett got to spoil Harness the Storm, which is really interesting. It's
Beautiful art.
Yeah, it's a red and because Raymond Swanland is an absolute master. It's a red and 2 generic mana enchantment. It's rare, and whenever you cast an instant or sorcery spell from your hand, you may cast target card with the same name as that spell from your graveyard. The really cool, and you still have to pay the costs of that card. It says right there in parentheses. Now, the most interesting thing about that is that it doesn't say then exile that spell. You can play a lightning bolt, play a red, play the lightning bolt from your graveyard, play another lightning bolt, play 2 red, play both lightning bolts from your graveyard, and so on and so forth.
Wow.
I love it.
I think that's really sweet.
That's super interesting.
And this card is either broken or terrible.
Right.
There's no two ways about it, and I'm pretty sure it's terrible, but it is really interesting.
Yeah.
And it's funny because it's called like Harness the Storm, and it would most likely be used in a storm deck, right?
It's cute. I see what they're doing.
Yeah, that flavor. Wish you hadn't done that. That was a bad call. Because now the thing's messed up.
Oh, now our cameras are.
Right. So now we got to do that, and we got to do that, and we got to cross our fingers that it will go back the way it's supposed to.
All right.
Yay! Oh no.
Well, it will.
It will. We'll hold. All right. Great.
Okay.
Hold.
Camera works.
Woo! Got there. It's been a little rough, y'all, with this on location stuff, but we're out of our comfort zone, and that's okay. It's not the zone where we can be. So we're going to move on to Gather the Townsfolk, even though I'm not going to change the thing down below that says first pick because reasons.
Because reasons.
However, I will pull it up on the screen now. Dang it, I did it again. But I'll pull it up on the screen that way I can fix it. Howard Lyon has, ever since, Angel of Alabaster, is that right? No, Angel of Flight Alabaster, which was one of my previews.
Nice.
For Innistrad, matter of fact. And then there was the Commander card, which is Angel of Twilight, is that right? Was the one on the top right?
I believe so. I can find out at Gather Open.
Sure. I know it was in a Commander set because I bought my first pre-con Commander deck ever, and it was in it, and that was cool. And then on the bottom right is one of the new angels in Shadows over Innistrad. It's something like Flame Blade Angel or something.
Yeah.
And then on the bottom right is Clip Wings, where she finally gets killed.
Angel of Finality is that card.
Thank you. Angel of Finality. She exiles all cards out of a graveyard when she enters the battlefield. What?
You just said exile cards from a graveyard.
It was a trigger.
Trigger warning.
Trigger warning.
Yeah.
So this is Howard Lyon. Did he sort of come up with this on his own and not tell anybody he was doing it?
I believe it was intentional that he named the character Isabel, and over the course of 6 years between the two Innistrads, he sort of told her story, I guess. And from what I gather, if you read the text of Angel of Flight Alabaster, she's looking for Avacyn. She's a downtrodden angel, and she's asking all of the spirits that she meets or that she's guarding if they know where Avacyn is. So then you cut to the top right. I'm assuming Avacyn is back, but she's still good Avacyn. So she has a cause. She's watching the graveyard. Obviously, she's exiling graveyards.
It's not okay.
And then we have the bottom left version where Avacyn has gone wrong. She's evil angel. She's bloody. She's mad. Her eyes are red. Her sword's on fire. And then you see the bottom right where she's being put down because she's essentially gone mad. And so in these 4 pictures, you do essentially see this character's arc. And that's beautiful. This is amazing.
Yeah. It's a tragic story that Howard... Now, but Howard did this on his own, or was he sort of prompted to do this? Do we know?
There was discussion of it on Reddit, but I didn't catch the whole thread.
Hmm.
I'm under the impression this was completely intentional, though, that he did it on his own. I don't think he was told that he was supposed to do this.
Yeah, and as we've seen in Shadows over Innistrad spoilers already, there are lots of callbacks to previous Innistrad cards, specifically with artists doing the new versions of their cards that they did in the initial block, like the new Delver and the new Sigarda, and all of these Isabel cards. So yeah, I definitely love all of the tie-ins that they've been doing with the art, for sure.
Yeah, absolutely.
I mean, between all the art and all the callbacks and the incredible flavorful stuff that they're able to do, whether it's just on the spells or like Brain in a Jar, or whether it's on the incredible stuff like the Startled Awakes, which is just one of the most flavorful, best designs I've ever seen. Like, just literally just put a bow on it. You killed it. I can't imagine that card being any better than the way that they made it. I love it. I don't care if it's broken and limited. Love it. And we're going to talk really quickly about Past Assault. Now, this past weekend, an absurd number of players went to play in the Team GP because people like playing in Team GPs.
Yeah.
That's fantastic. However, there was no coverage of it.
Yeah. I want to personally apologize for not doing guerrilla coverage of GPDC.
I would have donated, bro.
I know you would have.
There was a young lady named Susie the Gnat on
Yes.
Twitter who did an amazing job live tweeting the event, interviewing people on site, taking pictures. Shout out to her. If you're not following Call Out already, you need to because she's a queen.
Absolutely. She was doing, taking photos of the top tables and tagging all of the appropriate Twitter names with all the teams that were there and generally keeping everybody updated. Right. It looked like it was first of all, Star City, by all accounts, Star City Games did a fabulous job. I've heard from several people, including Owen Turtenwald, who doesn't like anything ever, said that they revolutionized sealed registration.
Sure.
So kudos to that. Well done. Obviously, Evan and I have lots of experience with Star City Games. We know a lot of those guys that are working there. And yeah, when you put Jared Silva and company in charge of anything, it's gonna go okay at the very worst.
At the very worst. Jared Silva is the event manager at Star City Games. He is as good as they get. He's the best at what he does, which is fantastic. They have Jason Flafford, who's been doing programming for them, who is also a level 3 judge, so he knows what the judges need in order to make things happen. And between all the custom programming and work that they've done, and the way that they've sort of structured the event, they knew that it was going to be big. They planned for it to be big. They were able to handle it with the right amount of staff and be able to pull it off, which is great because, last week everybody was pissed off and Pez was just like, public enemy number one, and they were really mad at it. So it's great that you can kind of see like, well, all right, well, not all events are clusters that everybody doesn't like.
Right. Well, I mean, we said all the good things so that we can now pass the salt onto the no coverage, which Star City Games, I don't understand how there's no coverage of this. Isn't Star City Games supposed to be the people who are like, no, we're going to be the coverage people.
Yeah, we're going to show you how it's fun.
And then there are just like 6,000 people, and it's a team event, right? And everybody loves to see the storylines and the pageantry of the team events. They want to see how Pork Bun Oath does. They want to see how Peach Garden Oath does. They want to see the tiny baby team of Chris Anderson and the two small children. They want those storylines because those are unique. Those don't happen at Pro Tours necessarily.
That's correct.
And then another thing that happened this weekend was Mike Hron was one of the 3 winners of the Grand Prix, in addition to Rookie of the Year Justin Cohen and I forget the third teammate on that team, but it's fine.
Severa?
Yeah, Matt Severa. Yes. Mike Hron's last 3 team Grand Prix finishes of tournaments he's played in, the last 3 team GPs he's played in are first, and first, with 5 different teammates. So, if there's an argument that there's a, quote, best limited player in the world right now, it's possible there shouldn't be. First of all, because it's Mike Hron.
Right.
And second of all, if there is an argument, he's certainly near the top of the list. And the sad thing is, he's got 2 Pro Tour top 8s, and no one knows who he is. Like, most
people who haven't been paying much attention to Magic, at least sort of for the long term, and don't care so much about the culture and the tournament culture and the Pro Tour culture and so on and so forth, don't really recognize how unbelievably good that guy is at Magic cards.
Yeah. But I mean, I understand that there was a conscious decision made to not do coverage of Grand Prix or to not do video coverage of Grand Prix DC. They made that decision. They followed through on that decision. I'm still going to complain about it because it's stupid. Because I mean, Standard's great to watch, whatever. But if you're going to have that many storylines happening all at the same time, it seems like a lost opportunity to build more characters, to get people excited about events that they might go to rather than construct. Certainly more people would plan to go to a limited event because you don't need a $600 standard deck or whatever, an $800 modern deck, and it's much easier to pick up and play. Huh?
I mean, everybody was there. Right?
Yeah.
Demonstrating was there. Elantris was there. Doc was there. It was nuts. Everybody was there.
Yeah, there was plenty of people there. Don't get me wrong, but no one likes to watch limited. It doesn't matter who is playing; they just don't care. Like I care when the best in the world are playing a constructed deck. Hey, I care at the Pro Tour when I get to watch them draft. I don't care that much about watching them play. Watching people draft is fun because you get to kind of like, well, okay, that's the best pick. Okay, well, they picked this card, and then you figure out why either you were wrong or they made a mistake.
So does this mean that we should have coverage? So does this mean that Wizards should create a team constructed GP?
Yes.
Is the next step in the discussion?
Yes.
So
people want to watch teams.
Yep.
And we've decided that they don't want to watch limited. All right, so let's make a team constructed. The Pro Tour in Charleston that was a team Pro Tour is still remembered 10 years, 12 years down the line by the people who were there.
Right. And that was unified constructed.
And that was unified constructed, which is an even more obtuse format.
Right.
And so I think that's the next logical step. Is I would anticipate a team constructed Pro Tour at some point. Not Pro Tour, Grand Prix.
Yeah, but I mean, imagine one player is standard, one player is modern, one player is legacy.
Okay.
And those can all be unified, so where you only get 4 lightning bolts between your legacy deck and your modern deck or whatever.
Right.
And that's fine.
4 polluted deltas, yeah.
Yeah, exactly. Right, between all the decks. I think that would be really cool. Why? Because I want to watch these teams, I just don't want to watch them play limited.
Yeah. I had no interest in it until Reed made top 4.
Of course.
Obviously.
And then I got all these tweets saying, Bay made top 4.
But that's the thing, is it's character driven. When you have teams, you have 3 times the number of players
I didn't really need the rest
to pay attention to.
Right.
What?
I didn't really need the rest of the team.
I understand you don't need the rest of them.
Just there.
But for everyone else,
We do.
top 8 is usually top 8. But top 4 in a team GP is 12 people. So if you're a fan of one of the 12 instead of one of the 8, that's just more people. That's just math, is what that is.
That's math?
That's math.
That's math.
And then you have 3 times the number of people who are on camera for the round for a third of the amount of time.
Right.
But you'll get to see Reed's shoulder when Owen is on camera, right?
Hey,
So
over here.
person.
and when Huey wins, Reed wins, and when Reed wins, we all win, right? So I think that's the point, is that the storylines are multiplied when you have teams, and it's a shame that it's too bad that people don't like watching limited.
Well,
it's too bad.
Wizards is still struggling with the fact that they have never really bought all in on promoting people. Like, they've only went so far in terms of making these kind of human interest stories.
Right.
And at the last Pro Tour, I thought they did an amazing job of going to, was it Team Channel Fireball or was it Team Pantheon? Pantheon, right, where BDM goes in there and they have those really cool interviews, and that was amazing.
Right.
We should see that all the time. They should be filming those things and be able to put those things in Grand Prix coverage, which would be fantastic. Having the people who do Grand Prix coverage make sure they do those kind of human interest pieces as as quickly as they possibly could. Then
Corbin Hostler wrote a couple for DC that were really good.
Yes.
He wrote one about families.
Yeah.
There were families that turned out for the GP.
Yep.
And he also wrote one about the young men that Chris Anderson.
Yeah, the kids are all right.
Right, and
Nice.
those were both really, really good. So somebody was doing that, but they just weren't
right. Well, another part of this Pass the Salt could be, I think written coverage is not worth putting all the resources into. I think Corbin, for what it's worth, did a great job. Don't get me wrong, Corbin, you killed it. I love what you did. I really enjoyed it, but they really should put all those efforts and money and time into making video pieces about these things and not written pieces about
I definitely
these things.
think that as someone who has done written coverage for a living for a long time, written coverage is currently oversaturated at best and on the verge of death at worst. Like, people just don't click on those articles anymore.
Right.
If you see, like, round 16, X player versus X player, and it's a description of what happened during the match, people do not read those anymore.
Yeah.
I do, because I'm a nerd, but I'm not the usual viewing public.
Right.
A casual Magic fan isn't going to read 3,000 words, 1,000 words on a match that happened. It just isn't going to happen. A video snippet of a minute and a half, 5 minutes, that is something that people will pay attention to.
And that's something that you could work into a coverage bit where you say, like, well, I watched such and such, and maybe it was just like a 2 or 3 minute rundown of what happened in that match. That's going to be seen and absorbed and used more than a huge write-up. Like Wizard, I honest to God believe at some point Wizard just has to recognize that they're just not putting the dollars in the right place.
Wizards doesn't have to do anything. They
also, you can even do what they do sometimes in sports, where it's like after a really crucial play. How many times have you been to a Magic tournament and somebody's dying to tell you what happened in their last match? You don't have to pull teeth to get people to tell you about that. So how hard would it be to get like Severa versus Huey? They play their game, and then something really amazing happens. Huey's sleeving up his cards, he puts everything back in his box, he signs a slip, and somebody says, hey, can you tell me about that play? Can you tell me how that went? I'm pretty sure these guys would tell you a story.
Yeah.
And it's a lot more interesting than reading about it in 3,000 words. Huey will just tell you about the amazing play, and it'll be great.
And I'd rather hear about it from them anyway.
Yeah.
Because that builds more of the human interest. It builds more of the people, the fans, want to hear from players that they like.
Here's the sad truth, is that Magic the Gathering is vinyl, all right? And I'll explain what I mean by that. Vinyl records were king for 40 years. They got rid of all comers. They got rid of Laserdisc. They got rid of 8-track. No one could beat vinyl. And so vinyl was like, we don't need to change. Why would we need to update ourselves? We're always going to be on top. Yeah. And then CDs came around, and vinyl was just like, we still don't, or cassettes, I guess, first. But vinyl still didn't. They didn't. There's no way to update it, but Magic can, and they're simply refusing to.
Right.
And so Magic being vinyl on the one hand is sweet because it's tactile, and I really like thumbing through my cards, and it's a really satisfying snap when you play things. And it's the same thing with vinyl. It's got that rich sound or whatever people who listen to vinyl say.
Pick it up and put the thing, and put the needle on it.
But the problem is that that's not what the kids are into, right? And the kids are the ones that have the money. Because everyone who's into vinyl will die eventually. And look, this is the sad truth. Right. Is that Wizards is like, this is how we've always done it. It's always been good enough, so we're just going to keep doing it.
Right.
And it's not anymore. We're at this tipping point where CDs are coming out, and that's where I think we are. Which is why I've been I don't need to convince you guys, but this is why I've been harping on this for so long.
Sure.
It's because I think that they don't recognize that they need to get with the times a little bit more. And it's it's just that, and everything that they've been doing, stepping back on coverage, not noticing that these little vignette pieces like they made for Pantheon are what people want, and not really changing. They're very stuck in their ways of what used to work, and they're not updating. And I think that is dangerous. Because we're coming into a world where, Hearthstone is going to be bigger than it's ever been in the coming year. Hex TCG is going to have 3 100K events next year. All right, and the players follow the money. I've never played Hex, but you know what? There are 300K events next year, so I'm probably going to learn, right? And I'm a lifelong Magic player, so if they have video coverage and if it's easy to follow, like Hearthstone does, they've got the cool splash animations, and they make everything entertaining to watch. That's where my eyes are drawn. And so, vinyl always is going to have its fans, but it might not always be the top dog forever.
Well, you also brought up the phrase good enough, and it seems like Wizards is fine with good enough, and no other game is. You see League of Legends, and they're constantly pushing the envelope. The last thing they want to be is good enough. You see a game like Hearthstone that is constantly innovating. You're seeing other games that are not content to settle. You're even seeing other TOs like Star City. In between the first quarter tour and the second quarter tour, they made changes. They were like, we know it's only been 3 months, but we didn't like this stuff, so we're going to fix it. And that's amazing. They are constantly, they're never satisfied. And in a good way, not in a bad way. Even as podcasters, how many times have we had discussions where it's like, let's keep it fresh, let's keep it interesting. With any podcast that I'm doing, I'm constantly striving to be better, fix our microphones, talk more, stream more, and it just seems like with them, good enough is good enough.
Yeah.
And I think that's a death sentence nowadays. Like, you've got to be willing to never be satisfied. Even good deck builders, you hear that with pro Magic players. They'll play a really good game and be like, I could have done that better. That card didn't really pull its weight. And I think that's the sign of greatness, when you're always just, is there anything I can do? Is there something I can tweak? And you just don't see that.
I think that the last thing, I don't want to get into a huge discussion about Magic Online,
Sure.
but an idea that my friend Harry Corvasi had was that if you got 3 college teams together of 20 people and said, okay, in 6 months, give us a new version of Magic Online, like, wouldn't that be a thing that would be a kick in the pants? Like, don't you think? And then the winner gets to design Magic Online and have full-time jobs. Like, it was just a thought experiment. Like, that's not a real suggestion. But that's the kind of thing, good enough is good enough. And Magic Online makes enough money, so they're content with they've made a lot of good changes very recently. But we've also talked about how they, over their history, haven't been better than they should be. Yeah. So, with the leagues coming back, like
Sure.
reaching the 6,000 person mark, that's spectacular. That's a good step in the right direction. But over its history and over the history of Magic coverage, it's all systematic, and I think that all of it it all has symptoms of the same disease.
Well, it all just basically means there's parts out there that are like hungry, as they say.
Yeah.
And there's parts that are not. And there are those who, and I'm not saying that coverage hasn't tried to do new and innovative things, that they haven't, made some strides. Certainly doing all those Pantheon pieces didn't just fall out of the sky. But, when those things happen, I do my best to be like, hey, Wizards, that's a good idea.
Yes.
You need to do more of that. I mean, we used to only get top 8 coverage. We used to only get top 8 coverage that was archived. You had to download as a zip file later and run your, MOV file on your machine so you could watch it. It was ridiculous.
I will say that Magic Online, as much as we harp on them on the show and as much as I just gave them a dagger for no reason, apparently in the last week they've really done, at least 2 different great things, right? The League happened.
League's amazing.
And something else happened that I'm forgetting.
They did another great thing.
What was that?
They invited me and my co-host to be part of a streamer showdown tomorrow.
That's just a quality segue is what that is.
Oh, that's a quality
the
one.
Girlfriend bracket tomorrow at 6 p.m. Central Standard Time.
Well done.
Nice. Very nice.
I'm hungry, that's why.
See? That's right. Because you want it.
Yeah.
You gotta want it. Now, I'll quickly touch on there was
Splash damage.
Splash damage. Now, again, I can't pull it up here because
This is
reasons and
scary as
things.
hell, if you think about it. Do you want me to talk about it?
Go for it. Let's give me the rundown.
So, Reuben was actually nice enough to share this with us, and it is an article about a young lady who's a Twitch streamer. She goes by the name of Ara Gaming, and she has a really big following. I think over 25,000 people, 28,000 people, and people regularly tune into her stream. And they showed up one day to find some other girl on her stream.
Yeah.
And they're asking in the chat, who are you? Where is Ara? This girl's not saying anything. She's not acknowledging any of the chat. And come to find out that Ara, whose real name is Sarah, had taken a break from streaming while she was sorting out her divorce. She was going through a really messy divorce. And it turns out that either the husband won her Twitch channel, won the rights to her Twitch channel and her social media accounts, or something else happened. But the bottom line is she's gone. And she's a really, really beloved streamer, and people are just wondering what the hell happened. And it kind of opened up this conversation of she was so popular that she turned into an LLC.
Yeah.
Which is basically a corporate entity that separates the person from the brand, and how that can kind of go wrong, because you're not necessarily your LLC. And if you have a really messy divorce and you've got somebody who's like, I want everything, they can really get it all. And this was just really scary to think about, where your Magic cards, your whatever, someone could just take that. And what did you guys think about this?
Yeah, I think that so this is scary because obviously we're on a Twitch channel right now. We all have Twitch channels, and if I got married and then got divorced, could my ex-spouse end up with my Magic Mike's channel or whatever?
Or even your Magic Mike's money.
Right, exactly.
Right.
And so I think that the big thing the big distinction here is that because she had gotten so popular, she had like 28,000 subscribers, she had just, a million views or whatever. So she turned her channel into an LLC, which is a limited liability company. You see that those letters after company names all the time. And the reason to do it is so that if your channel did something wrong that meant that your channel got sued, you personally couldn't lose your house, right? You sort of separated yourself from the channel. The bad news is now you've separated yourself from the channel, which means that it's a product, which means that it's something you own, which means that it's in play when you get divorced. And so that's the big split here.
Right.
So we don't have to worry about it us right now. I mean.
Right.
Maybe later.
But when we start making millions of dollars,
Right.
we have an LLC, and we all have different stakes in that LLC.
Right.
And when something happens to and if one of us dies, our family will get that chunk of the business, whatever that happens to be. The LLC is a corporate entity that separates the person from the liabilities of the business,
right?
So that you don't lose all your crap. Something goes wrong. It also helps with things like taxes or whatever.
Yeah.
But once those things become not you, then those things don't have to be you.
Sure.
And that's it's a weird kind of new age world that we live in where there could be a Magic streamer who is very popular. And let's say Kenji makes himself an LLC, and then something happens, whether Kenji doesn't want to do it anymore and he could sell it, Kenji doesn't want to do it anymore, or someone tries to sue him and that's what he has to give up.
Right.
I mean, there's things that can happen when you aren't that thing by yourself anymore.
This is like when you read post-apocalyptic style Onion things. This reminds me a lot of when people would sell their WoW accounts, Aaron. You know what I'm talking about? People would be like, oh, there's a person behind this that I know who that is. And then suddenly you're playing with that same character that has all the same stuff that you've been playing with for years, and suddenly it's a different voice on the other end of the headset.
Or they don't even tell you it's a voice. I can remember playing with characters who were already seen as quiet types, and they take a bit of a break from the game. Suddenly they reappear. They want to raid with you. You're raiding with them, and then somehow it turns out that this person is not the person you thought it was. But because they kept, low to the ground and they just played their character, you had no idea. And that was always a really weird feeling. You couldn't help but sort of be attached to them. Sort of like how Sarah's viewers are. They don't know where she is. Apparently, her husband came forward and said that due to legal proceedings, she couldn't do any streaming or be involved in the streaming business for up to 5 years.
Wow.
And so she really has been silenced in this case, if that's true. And, people are very attached to this person, and they just don't know where she is, and the answers that they're getting are very cryptic, and it's just, it's very scary for them.
Yeah, so if you're I don't know how many popular streamers watch our show, but, it's a non-zero number. We certainly have other streamers watch the show, so, if you're getting to the point where you're, where it's becoming a money-making venture. It might not be its own company yet, but certainly, if you have a Patreon of some kind, if you have a Kickstarter of some kind, if you get subscription fees of some kind, we have folks like, Tolarian Community College watches our show all the time. This is the kind of story that should scare him as well. Right. It's not immediately pertinent to any of us, but it's certainly a thing worth knowing.
There are streamers who make 7 figures.
Yeah. Oh, certainly.
Literally 7, sometimes 8, like a lot.
That YouTube guy, PewDiePie, was on The Late Show just as a guest.
Wow.
And was like, yeah, I make like $10 million a year because I make faces. Right? Because people like him. That's insane.
His videos kill me.
That's what he does.
And that's fine. People love that, and that's a great thing for them. So, regardless, we got around the corner, as we do every week. I wish I could change the bottom, but I can't.
Yeah.
To the finisher. Now, as we mentioned, Evan is visiting Reuben's place. I'm here at Reuben's place. Hi. Oh, yeah. And I will be leaving soon. I'm leaving out on Friday morning. I'm leaving on a jet plane. And Reuben is also preparing to leave Sin City.
I'm packing. I'm getting ready to go.
This will be your last show.
Yeah, man.
From Nevada.
Next week I'll be in Ohio visiting parents, and then the week after that I'll be in Pennsylvania.
In the PA.
Yeah.
That's right. So, what should Evan and Reuben do, like the national treasure himself, Nicolas Cage, before leaving Las Vegas?
See what you did.
Felt good.
Okay. Well, obviously, Las Vegas is known for their drag queens, so I suggest the biggest and best of them all, Ember Cool, the Fashion's Warm.
Wow.
All right.
Wow, Reuben.
Well, I'm looking forward to taking Evan out to the casino, as I do,
Mm.
and seeing how he does at the sportsbook betting on Angel's Race.
Well, I want to check out the latest show. It's all the rage, and I really want to see it before I leave. Innistrad's Inquisitors present the hottest all-male review in town, Clip and Flails. What?
Clip and Flails.
Clip and Flails.
You want to go see Clip and Flails
Clip and-
tonight?
Turn it up, Audrey.
Woo!
All right.
Give me all them abilities.
Oh my God! All right, that's one of the most interesting finishers we've had in a while. I'll give you that. Okay, so as we end this show on location, I would like to thank my two co-hosts, Reuben Bressler. You gotta say something for the
Oh,
podcast.
yeah. Bye, podcast.
Love you.
Yeah. Love you, mean it.
Aaron Campbell.
Thank you for having me and for missing legacy paper for this.
That's right. That's what you get. That's what happens. You mess with the show and you get the
We saved you pain of not getting Rest in Peace all night.
right. You were gonna get rest in peace. You didn't even know that.
Yeah.
But you were.
I appreciate it.
That's right. That's what we do for you. That's our service. Okay. So we're going to go to our outro slide here. And that ends another episode of Magic Mics. Thank you guys for joining us here to discuss all things magic. I'd like to thank my co-hosts, you guys, for watching, and hope you support us at patreon.com/magicmics. And we would like for you to follow, like, tweet, share, favorite, and do everything social that tells people that we exist. Catch us online at twitch.tv/magicmics, on Twitter at magicmicescast, on Reddit at reddit.com/magicmics, and on Facebook at facebook.com/magicmics. Talk to us privately at magicmicspodcast@gmail.com. Follow the audio-only podcast at magicmicspodcast.libsyn.com, or find us on iTunes, or join us here next week, where we will be holding an extra long after the show party for our $20 plus Patreon members. We're going to roll it past. So the after show, the after party, will be featuring those people.
Yeah, and also we have our spoiler next week.
That's right. Plus a spoiler.
Sorry, preview.
Well, I'm sorry. Preview. That's important.
Yeah, man.
We're not spoiler previewing things.
We have a card from the new set.
Yes. we have
Call
a
it what
card.
you
We
want.
do. I'm so excited.
It's good. It's mythic. Hope you guys enjoy it. It's going to be great. Yeah. So, with that said, we are officially out. Thank you guys for checking it out. Join us here next week, same time, same place, for another episode of Magic Mics. Good night, everybody.